Welcome to the Full Minded with Alyssa Bette podcast, where my mission is to normalize the human experience. I believe there's power in authenticity and building a community immersed in it. I plan on bringing you on an in-depth and transparent journey of my life through solo episodes. I will also be interviewing a range of individuals who are willing to share their unique stories. On this podcast, we will dive into topics such as mental health, heartbreak, loss, change, trauma, self-love, and every other topic that makes up the human experience. While I do my very best to provide you insight and knowledge on these subject matters, this podcast is not a substitute for professional help. I am not a licensed therapist. I am simply a human sharing my experiences with the intent to help people feel less alone. If you are suffering, please consult with a licensed professional. Thank you so much for tuning in and enjoy the episode. Welcome back to another episode, guys. I hope everyone is doing well. I am sitting in the exact same spot as I recorded my last episode, in this beautiful chair in this front room of my friend's house. These big ass windows overlooking the sunrise. The sun is like right in my eyes. Living for it, loving it. And my house plant. And today I have some mixed feelings about recording this episode. I will be honest and keep it real. One, I do want to tell the story. I think it's important that people know, and I think it'd be cathartic to share. But two, it obviously, of course, brings up a lot of emotion. Now, if you tune into my last episode, you know what I'm going to talk about today. Well, you know roughly what I'm going to talk about today. So for those that don't know, I traveled to Bali this year, kind of on a whim, and ended up staying for 3 months. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Was it challenging? Yes. Did I get sick a lot? Yes. Was I tested? For sure. But it was one of the best things that life has ever given me, because it made me grow in ways that I could never have, staying in my own country, not traveling. And I did it on my own as well. And while I was there, something happened, and I was very vocal on Instagram during my trip. I was very present. I basically brought everyone along with me on my journey. I did a lot of vlogs, and at one point I said, something happened and it kind of made me shut down, and I went to the jungle to recharge and reconnect and get out of fight or flight. And I said, one day, I promise I'll talk about it on my podcast, because I knew it would be a very important and valuable lesson to teach other people, especially other women. So that is the whole mission of the podcast, is talking about things that get swept under the rug and people feel uncomfortable talking about, so that we get to a place where we can all be human and not judge ourselves and one another for it. Y'all ready for the story? Let's get into it. All right, so a little backstory on my dating history before we tap into this. I don't date. I've not dated for years. Since my last relationship, some of you have been around since then. That relationship was very public on social media, which I had no issue with. But then when it ended, it felt really invasive. Everyone just kind of asking what happened, and it was intense. It really overwhelmed me. And though I healed quite quickly from that relationship, because I feel like I had grown a lot and built a lot of self-love, I didn't feel like my love came externally anymore. So it made me heal very quickly, quicker than I was used to in past relationships. I kind of just swore off dating, not out of a place of being hurt per se. It was just out of a self-preservation mode. Like, I was like, okay, I feel like I've dated my whole life, literally my whole life, like serial dated people. Maybe we just don't for a minute. Maybe we just do us. And I had been single for like 11 minutes before. Like, I just had never taken the proper time to be single and to love me and to do nice things for me and to date myself and to get to know me. Like, who the fuck was I? No idea. So I said, let me not date anyone. And now we're coming up on 2 years. And my intention when I was traveling this year as well, I was still like, no, I don't want to date anybody. My friends check in often with me. They're like, are you ready to date? Are you wanting to date? No, I feel like I would have to meet somebody really, really fucking spectacular to break that, because of how good I'm doing and how happy I am just living my life and being independent. I can offer myself so many things I don't really need a man for. And it's not to be like in a douchey way. I just don't feel like I need a partner at this time. However, I did say before traveling, if I met someone, I wouldn't be completely against it, but it wasn't something I was searching for. It wasn't something I was on the hunt for. I just wanted to travel and have fun. And that was it. So that's what I was doing. I was traveling and I was having fun. And then one night there was a concert in Bali and no one that I knew wanted to go. So I said, let me go by myself. So I took myself to this concert, and as I was paying for my ticket, I met this girl from Brazil. She was so sweet. She was also paying for her ticket and she was there alone. And we're both like, should we just go to the concert together? That's the most Bali and solo travel thing ever. Like you just meet people everywhere. It's like easy as fuck. It's like breathing air to meet people and to have good conversation and to just hang. So that was really fun. So we went to this concert. It was amazing. There was fireworks, there was streamers. It was a whole shebang. And it was like $18. Like I love Bali. So we're having a good time. And then later we go to a different club afterwards. One thing about me, I'm sober. I have been for years. I do love clubbing. Usually when I'm traveling. I don't really go to like clubs in Vancouver, anywhere that I travel to in Canada. I don't know why. It's not as fun, obviously. And it's way more expensive for what? So usually I'll save that for when I'm traveling. So the clubs in Asia are lit. They're wild. They're just wild. They're just doing the most for the cheapest amount of prices. So I love that. So that's why I go. So we went to another club. We met this girl while we were there, joined her. And then I knew one of the dancers that was like dancing for the guy performing. And he was like, come back. There's an after party at this big club. And I was like, yeah, why not? Hey. So me and this girl that I had met a mere 2 hours before went back, and this club was insane. It was like 5 levels and it was wild. The after party was bussin'. So I was like, okay, this is a good time. We went up to the front. We were dancing. I see my friend. And then we were about to leave because we were like, are you over it? It's kind of late. And she's like, yeah, no, let's leave. So we go to head out of the club. And it was funny because that night she was like, what's your type? And it's funny because when you're traveling, you get that a lot, right? What's your type? Like, what are you into? Like, it's just one of the things people discuss. So I felt like I had said that a lot in the last couple of weeks. So I, in future kind of thought, oh, maybe I manifested this person, right? So I'm like, oh, my type is this, like very particular, this is what I like. I used to not have a type or think I had a type. I would just accept usually the bare minimum and be like, oh, we have the door open for me. Let's date. But now, after spending all this time alone, tapping into myself, healing, I'm like, turns out I actually have a very specific type that I'm genuinely attracted to. So I was listing off my type to her. We're about to leave this club because we're like, we're over it. It's 2 a.m. Let's go. As we're leaving, we're on this random dance floor. There's like 17 dance floors, I swear to God. We're on this random one and trying to find the exit, and the song comes on. And she's like, this is my song. I was like, to be fair, it's a good song. You want to go dance? So we go dance. As we're walking to go dance, we pass this guy who is my exact type. And I was like, hey, this is my type. I literally said to her, you were just asking this, exactly this. And she was like, oh my God, no way. Yeah, I know, he's cute. And then we walk past, we make eye contact, and then I go and dance with her. I look back at one point. One thing about me, if I find you attractive and I think you're cute, I will look at you for sure and almost give you the okay, but I will not approach you at all. I just don't. I won't do that. I will not do that. Like, if you like me, you got to come get me. Like, you got to put in the legwork. I'm not putting in any work. And so we're dancing. We're having a good time. We look back. We make eye contact. He kind of looks away. I'm like, maybe he's not interested or he's nervous. Who the fuck knows? So the song is over. We go to leave. We walk right by him. He looks me dead in the eye. He's like, where are you going? And I was like, we're going home. It's late. He's like, you are beautiful. And I was like, thank you. You're not so bad yourself. And he was like, my friends, they've been looking at you, thinking you're cute. I said, well, I'm not interested in your friends. He said, who are you interested in? I said, if I had to pick, it'd be you. He was like, let me get you a drink. I said, I don't drink. And he goes, I don't drink either. You want a water? And I was like, sure thing. So physically, he's checking off the boxes. Exactly what I would want, everything. And then on top of it, he don't drink. So I'm like, I'm intrigued, because how often do you meet somebody who does not drink in this day and age? It's very rare, especially in Bali, especially in a club, of course. Come to find out, none of his friends drank. They were all chilling, having the best time on water. And I was like, I fuck with this. So he gets me water. We go dance. We're like kismet, like in tune, like just vibing. Our bodies just become one. Like it was just so beautiful. And mid-song, he leans over. He goes, you better clear your schedule tomorrow because I'm taking you out for brunch. And I was like, cleared. Consider it cleared. And yeah, it was beautiful. It was amazing. The little bits we were getting to know each other, like off the jump, it was really good. He also said, one of the things on my list is remote work or is a CEO, because one thing about me, like I work so hard to be able to travel and work remotely that if I want to go to Africa on Tuesday, you know, I can't be having you asking your boss for time off for getting 2 weeks a year. That's a sin. So no. And it's only something that I've come to realize was on my list the last little bit, probably the last year, I'd say. No shame to any other job. Like you do you, how you make your money. You know, I don't judge nobody for what they do to make their money. That's okay. But for me, it makes sense to choose a partner that aligns with my lifestyle. So he, off the jump, is the right age that I would, the right age bracket. I'm not giving you much of my type on this, am I? No, we're going to keep that a mystery. And then he's like, I work remote, so I'm here traveling. Not sure how long I'm going to be here for. How about you? And I was like, damn. Yeah, same. I'm just free bird and just exploring. So yeah, we keep dancing, and then I go to leave and he's like, don't leave. And I'm like, oh, I gotta leave. It's so late. It's way past my bedtime. So eventually I end up leaving. He's like, let me get your Instagram, your info. We end up exchanging info. He walks me out, walks me and my friend out, make sure we get out okay. He's like, text me when you're home safe. Very cute. And I'm shook. I'm just like, am I gonna marry this man? One thing about me is like, I don't fall easy, but when I do, oh my God. I'm in it so deep, guys. So I was like, good chance I'm going to marry that guy. This girl that I met at Mirror 3 hours ago, I was like, what, for real? And I was like, dude, she's like, y'all did vibe. I'm like, we was vibing. So I messaged him when I get home. He's just like, it was so nice to meet you. And I was like, yeah, let me know if you're still up for whatever you want to do tomorrow. He texts me when he wakes up the next day. And he's like, yo, I slept in. I wanted to take you out for brunch. And I was like, to be fair, I've already eaten. But if you want to come join me at the beach later, let's go. So he comes down to the beach later. I'm super nervous, obviously. Excited but nervous. And it was a nice time, but it felt like something was a bit off. Like it felt like he was maybe nervous, or it wasn't the same energy that I was getting from him the night before. But it was still good. We chatted about a lot of things. We chat about kids. He was like, I've never wanted kids until I came to Bali, and I seen all these really cute Balinese kids. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I do. And I was like, it's funny because I feel like I'm in the opposite stage. I've always dreamt about having kids my whole life. And then lately I've been like, I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if it's something I want to dedicate my life to, because it is a life dedication thing. And I feel like in a lot of ways I've just gotten free from living in survival mode, and I don't really want to stop that. I just want to keep living. I feel like I'm in my teen years kind of. So it was good conversations, and he said he had a few sisters, so a lot of things that he was saying was very aligned with me and my morals. And like, we talked about religion. He wasn't religious, which I love. I love the open mind of it, and just everything, even the fact he was in IT as well. So he worked remote, did a couple things, but one of the jobs was IT. And that is funny because that's something I've added to my list recently because of how many technical issues I have. I'm like, let me go ahead and ask for that in a man, because then he can fix all my computer issues. And he did, in fact, fix 3 issues in the first week with my computer. So though I felt a little weird about the second date, or the first official date, I guess, I was like, let me see it through. So he leaves. And the other thing about Bali too, and that I had learned at this point, because it was a couple months in, was that you got to be weary of Bali boys, okay? Passport boys, passport bros. And a lot of men in Bali that come to Bali or live there, they're not looking for anything serious at all. They're looking to just hook up, and though that can be fun for a little while, women that are there, I feel like are there to heal, and it can be a bit of a clash. So I'm always leery. I've met many men on this trip, nothing like this, where I was like, wow, you're actually my type and I would consider hanging out with you again. It was just more so like, oh, sure, we can grab a bite to eat and hang out, go to the club. Like I was chilling, but I wasn't like, dating anyone. So while we're on this date, he's like, I'd love to take you to this place to watch the sunset. What day are you free? And I was like, okay, that's kind of a cute sign that he's already planning something else. So I'm like, this day works. He's like, all right, I'll see you then. I got to go get some work done. But it was so nice seeing you. Gave me a hug and he went on his way. So at this point, I'm not feeling as strong of the husband vibes as I was getting the night before when I was high on life. I was just like, maybe not. We'll see where it goes. So the second date was in another couple days. So 2 days pass. I'm at the beach. I'm hanging out by myself. We had been keeping in contact pretty steadily. However, there was a couple hours before this date that I didn't hear from him. And I was like, oh, I wonder if he's going to bail, because that's another thing. People just be bailing. So I'm hanging out with this random chick I met on the beach, just enjoying life. And I ordered some food. I said, fuck it. What if he bails? So he messages and he's like, hey, so I got caught up with work and I have a meeting that got scheduled or got pushed or whatever. So I won't be able to make the sunset that we were supposed to see, but I have another plan. Let me take you to this really nice Italian place at 8 instead. So I waited a bit to respond because I was a little bit upset. I was like, bro, tell your meeting to wait. And so I thought about it. I'm like, oh, fuck it. Like, what's the harm? I get spaghetti and then I don't want to see this guy again. Who cares? So I'm not like super enthusiastic about going on this date, but I'm like, let me just see it out. Like, what's the fucking harm? Like, I'm literally going to eat spaghetti. It's going to be like, there's nothing that can go wrong with eating spaghetti. And so we show up. He's like a couple minutes late and I'm like trying not to be upset about it because I'm like, bro, you're already late and pushed this date. So maybe show up 10 minutes early, 5 minutes early. But then he's like, I'm sorry. I literally ran my motorbike into the fence, as I was backing up, which is a very standard thing for tourists to get into bike crashes or their bike malfunction and them freak out. So he was like, I apologize for being a few minutes late. He sits down. The energy is 100. We're in an Italian restaurant and we don't order food for an hour. And I feel like if you know me, I'm the biggest foodie. And when I'm hungry, fucking move out my way. I need to eat. We did not order for an hour because we just sat there engulfed in what each other was saying in the body language. We're right next to each other, sitting on the same side of the booth, just staring at each other. He's like, you look gorgeous. I'm like, you literally look gorgeous. This is one of the most beautiful men I think I've ever seen in my life, to be honest. And just a good person, the things that he did, his values, what he did in his spare time to help people. He was just there was a lot of green flags going off. After dinner, we have a lovely dinner. He's very traditional in the sense that I was not allowed to pay for anything at all. I couldn't even try. He would just do it before I even had a moment, which I thought was sweet. I feel like I don't really know where I stand on that. I'm not a 50-50 gal per se. I don't really want to lean on a man for finances, but I also do appreciate a traditional guy. So we leave and we walk down to the beach. We go have this crazy heart-to-heart on a beach. I'm talking, this man bears his soul to me. I am a little bit used to people bearing their soul to me, I think because, one, I'm very open myself. So I think when someone's really open, they obviously come off not very judgy because they're giving people lots of opportunity to judge them and they're not giving a fuck. So I feel like I do have a warm and welcoming energy, and a lot of people share things with me that they've never really talked about with anyone else. And this was the case in this situation. He was like, this is something I went through and I don't know why I'm telling you this. Literally, I've never told anyone. I'm like, that's wild. So we had this really beautiful moment for an hour on the beach where I was like, holy shit, this guy is so cool. This is maybe it. This is the first time, of course, the first night I was like, whoa, maybe he's my husband, a little bit unserious. But this moment after the date, I was like, oh my God, is this a thing? Am I going to date someone again? It just hadn't crossed my mind in so long that it felt pretty surreal. So anyway, before the date ends, he's like, let me take you out. He's like, I'm going out with some friends. the next night to this pizzeria that turns into a club. Such a good time. Would love for you to come and meet them. I was like, okay. So the next night he picks me up, takes me, I go and meet his friends. His friends are amazing. I have nothing but good things to say about his friends, like literally good vibes all around. But I will say, though it was good vibes all around, something inside of me was feeling off and I couldn't identify it. So I thought, maybe it's my past trauma. Maybe I'm starting to realize that I really like this person and it's getting really deep quickly, which is standard for me because I feel like I don't talk about the fucking weather. I'm like, let's talk about childhood trauma. Let's get into it. So I'm kind of attributing my feelings to that because there was a few times that I went to the bathroom and I was like I feel off, but I cannot figure out what it is because there's nothing wrong. Like he's being so respectful. He paid for everyone's dinner, including his friends. His friends are so sweet. They're of depth. They're not drinking. We're all drinking water. They literally bought a section and got free booze with the section and then left the booze there and just drank water. And I was like, this is such a vibe. This is like what I would want, but I couldn't understand why I was feeling so uneasy. So I ended up leaving not too early, but definitely earlier than the club would end. It was like 1. And I was like, I just feel really anxious. Oh yeah. Skip back earlier that night. I did tell him, I was like, hey, I'm feeling like really anxious. I'm not sure why. He's like, well, let's go outside. Do you want some fresh air? And I was like, yeah, sure. He's like, okay, come on. So it took me out back. He's like holding my hand, being right sweet. And I was like, dude, this guy's a dream. What the fuck is this? So we're chilling. It's a good time. And, so we enjoy the rest of our night. And then the next day, he takes me out for brunch because he's like, I want to come with you. And I was like, no, stay with your boys. They're flying out tomorrow to go back to Australia. Like, stay with your boys. Like, I'm fine. So he walks me out, orders me an Uber, a Grab, whatever. He's like, let me take you out to this really cool spot tomorrow for brunch. I was like, okay, sounds good. Oh, something I forgot to mention. On our date at the Italian restaurant, like the second date, he knew it was my birthday coming up. And he was like, what are your birthday plans? Because my birthday was in a few days. And I was like, I'm thinking of renting a villa for my friends and I that I had met in Bali, but I am not sure. We haven't set on the villa yet. And this man looks me dead in the eyes and goes, let me buy the villa. I said, what in the fuck? And he's like, let me get you the villa. Like, you're such a sweet person. Like, I can tell that you're just a good person based off all of our interactions. And I know it's a crazy thing to do. I'm like, I'm glad you're acknowledging that it is in fact an insane thing to do for a stranger. At least for me, in my experience. I'm always really hesitant to let men buy me anything. Like, I was like a bit stressed that he was buying me dinner, and the dinner was probably like $11 combined. So I was like, a villa is crazy for 3 nights, a big ass villa to hold 8 people. That's nuts, So he's like, I'm not going to force it on you, but I would like to do it. It's something I would like to do. I want to do something sweet for you. So I'm like, though that's so kind. I also had experience with men who talk a big game and say, let me do this for you. Let me take you here. And then they don't. So I was just like, okay, like, thank you, but I'm okay. And so the next night, fast forward again, we're at this club, I'm having anxiety. He's comforting me, being sweet. He brings it up again. He said, why don't you send me that villa you're looking at so I can just check it out? I said, you're not going to check it out. You're going to book it. He goes, I'm going to book it. Let me do something nice for you. Let a stranger do something nice for you. I was like, but it's wild. It's expensive. It's a big ass villa. Like, though Bali's cheap, like it was expensive. It was like $2,000 Canadian, maybe more. But he was very persistent. And I was like, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Let me just let this guy buy this villa, whatever. And so the next morning he messages me and he's like, hey, I booked the villa for you. And I was like, damn. Thank you. Like, that is so nice of you. And, there were some people that we were splitting the villa on that were hesitant because of cost and work and things like that. So I was able to just tell all the people, I'm like, by the way, the villa's covered. Like, you don't have to spend any money and you can just come and go as you want. So it really alleviated stress from some people, which I loved. And for me, birthdays are quite emotional. Like, I had a lot of bad birthdays growing up, so I get a bit of birthday anxiety. So it alleviated that piece for me too, of just like, who won't come because they don't want to spend the money, or it was really sweet. And I super, super fucking appreciated it. So I want to say, yeah, we're at brunch the next day. Yeah, the next day. And he's like, I feel a bit off today, so I'm just going to give you a heads up. I may not be my chipper usual self. And I respected that. I was like, thanks for the clarity and communication. Like, appreciate that. So we're having brunch. He's pretty chill. And I'm feeling a bit of anxiety. Again, that feeling. And I'm like, what is that? Like, what is that? Am I just like really nervous? So I'm like, maybe let me ask where this is headed. The other thing, I don't give a fuck if you think it's too early to ask that. No. We're in Bali. This, you shared, you bared your soul to me, date too. Like, I'm allowed to ask. Ask where it's going. Don't feel like it's too much or too early. Just ask, bro. Like, don't worry about that, guys. So I said, what's the vibe here? We're like eating eggs and smoothie bowls. What's the vibe? Where's this headed? He's like, I knew you were going to ask me that. I was like, good. So you have an answer, probably. He's like, stops eating, looks at me. He's like, I really like you. You intrigue the fuck out of me. So I want to keep getting to know you more and more and just see where it goes. He's like, I just want to take it moment by moment. Life is ever changing, so it's hard to predict what can come, but I really like you, Liz, and I just plan on treating you with the utmost respect while we continue to get to know each other. And where I do work remote, I could come and see you in Canada. I could come to Canada. Like, that doesn't intimidate me, the whole different country thing. So that's where I'm at. And I was like, damn, that's a good response for a fucking weekend. That's a good response, right? So we're chilling. And then he goes, so I have something to tell you, because I invited him to my birthday weekend. Of course, he bought the villa. And also I would love him to come. This man is trying to book a hotel near the villa. I said, you can stay at the villa. What the fuck do you mean? Like, you bought the villa? He's like, oh, I didn't want to assume that. Like, I'm good to stay in a hotel and let you do your thing. And I'm like, no, come hang with all my friends. So he's like, okay, sweet. So we have plans to leave. I think it was like 2 days after the brunch, or maybe it was the day after. Everything was like happening. It felt like fast, but also not at the same time. It's hard to explain. Like, it just, when you're traveling, you have nothing but time to hang out with people and get to know them. It feels like quicker than life here. Like, say you're working 5 days and you have the weekends off, so you don't see them until the next weekend. Like, it's just different. So he's like, but I have to be honest with you about something. I said, okay, what? He's like, I have a 3-week rule where if I'm seeing a woman, I won't have sex with her until the 3 weeks are up, because I feel like, he's like, not that I haven't before, not to say that, but I feel like I'm at this place now where I'm just not in it for casual hookups, and I really want to get to know a person. And I feel like, your souls connect when you have sex, and it's just this whole thing. So I'm like staring at this man like, how the fuck is this guy real? Like, sexual discipline in a man is such a rarity. Such a rarity. And it was also something on my list, but something far out, and I didn't know if I would be able to get. So I'm like a little bummed because I'm not going to have birthday sex, but deep down, I'm like, I'm so fucking impressed by this dude. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? So anyway, the next morning, we are supposed to leave for the city that we're leaving to for my birthday. So yeah, we're going to stay in this big ass villa that he booked. And I wake up having a gut feeling. And I was just like, he's not going to come. He's going to bail, or something's going to happen. I remember calling my friends and they're like, no, Liz, like, he's not going to bail. Like, why would he buy the villa and then he bail? That'd be the craziest thing ever. I was like, I don't know. I just have a weird feeling. I shit you not. And one thing about me, you should know by now if you've been tuning along, I have a really good gut feeling. And it shan't be reckoned with. And after this experience this year, I will never doubt my instincts again. Stay tuned. So I fucking am getting ready to go, packing my suitcase. He texts me. He goes, hey, no, he didn't even text. He voice notes. It's like 18 seconds. It's short, bro. He's like, hey, Liz, I'm just like not feeling the greatest. I'm going to kick back. I'll come either tomorrow or the next day, because we were there for a couple days. I'm so sorry. What? So I'm already like, I don't like the lack of transparency. Like, what's going on? Like, why do you not feel good? Like, give me more. Like, this is so strange. So I a little bit like had a spiral moment, because I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck is this? So I end up being like, can you call me for more transparency, please? I would love to discuss this more. So he calls me and I'm just like, hey. So one thing about me, like canceling last minute, it can trigger my abandonment wound, and it can make me spiral more than a regular or an average neurotypical person. I'm not going to say regular. Neurotypical person would be like, all right, bet, see you when you come. I think any woman would still be like, what? But I do think that because I have severe abandonment issues, that I felt it on a deeper level. So I was like, so he called. He literally called, and he gives me the most in-depth explanation as to why. He goes, once in a while, I get into my head and I get into these headspaces where I don't want to be around anyone and I just want to be by myself. I just want to be alone, and I don't like my energy to be that low when I'm with people. So I honestly usually just lay in a dark room for a day or two and recharge. And I was like, well, I super appreciate the transparency, and I totally get it. Like, mental health, babe. Like, I am the mental health advocate. Like, I love it. And I love that you can recognize when you need to take time to recharge and be alone. And I super appreciate the transparency, because now I'm okay. Now I'm like totally fine. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I can make it make sense. I'm a very understanding person, but I need transparency. I need authenticity. I need you to be like, a plastic bag. I need to be able to see and understand what's going on inside of it. So all is well. He's explained himself. I'm feeling good. He even checked in with me. He's like, do you want me to come see you before you go? And I was like, no, take your time. Take your space to rest. And he's like, I'll be there tomorrow. And I was like, if you need a couple days, take your time. He's like, no, I promise I'll be there tomorrow. I was like, okay, cool. So I go down with one of my friends. We're staying at this big ass villa, just us two, because the rest of the people are showing up the next day. It was wild. The villa was insane. If you follow me on Instagram, you've seen it. It's in my Bali highlights if you want to go find it. So we get there. My friend and I go out for dinner. Then the next day, everyone starts arriving. So this guy shows up. He's like, at first, he's like, I have some work I need to get done in the morning, but then I'll come in the afternoon. At first, he was kind of like, I'll come in the morning, but then he was like, I have some work. I'm like, no problem. And then he's like, when I get there, I have a little bit of work to do. I'm like, no problem. I get it. Like, I get, having my own company. You may have a day off, but there may be some things you need to do throughout. Like, like your work doesn't really stop. I get that. He shows up. First thing he does, he answers a call from his best friend on FaceTime, and he introduces us. So I'm like, sitting in this guy's lap, chilling in the sun by the pool, and I'm meeting his best friend on FaceTime. And this guy's from Australia, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. He is like born and raised. Well, he was born in London, England, and then he moved to Oz when he was 5. So he had a little mix of a British and Australian accent, which was a vibe. And so his best friend was in Australia, and he was trying to convince him to come out. And he's like, I'll buy your flight, like come out, blah, blah, blah. His friend's super nice. So I'm shooting the shit with him. That's the one thing too that I really love. Like, I fuck with all of his friends. Like, his friends are dope people. Like, I get good vibes from his friends. I did think he was being a little bit showy on the phone, not his friend, but like him being like, let me fly you out. Let me do this. I'll pay this, but that's just, it was kind of who he was in his nature. Obviously he bought me this villa. Like, he was a bit of a flexer. So he gets there, we're having a good time, and the weekend is really fun. He meets all my friends. My friends are like, this guy's so sick. He's so sweet. He's so considerate. At first, one of the guys that was at the villa, because there was a guy that stayed with us that's one of my friends, he was like, why the fuck is your guy paying for everything? Oh, that's the thing. This guy was paying for our dinners, our club entry, like for all of my friends. And I was like, you don't need to do this. I hope you understand that, like, I'm not interested in you for your money. Like, we had this conversation. I'm like, I am like, not an impressed person by money. Like, throwing money at me doesn't do a lot. I have my own money. I don't need yours. Like, I don't want you to feel like you have to do this to impress me. Like, I'm interested in you, money aside. Like, the money is like, it's just not important. He's like, no, I know. It's just like how I love, how I give. Like, it's just, I'm not going to die with a bunch of money. Like, I want people to feel spoiled, and I want them to feel loved, and I love making people happy. And I know that money is a big pressure thing, and people feel really stressed about it. So if I can alleviate that, I will. And I was like, that's a really good response. I can't argue with it. Like, I guess if you want to spend your money, you have the autonomy to do so. So the weekend is good. Overall, we have some really good, like, pillow talk at like late night, when everyone else has gone to bed. We're connecting. It's getting deep. And I did really want to see if, he was really serious about the waiting thing. So I did put him to the test for sure a couple times, and he passed. And I was very impressed by that, because I was like, holy shit, a man with sexual discipline is a unicorn. So we didn't have sex. We just connected and got to know each other, kissed a lot, whatever. And though we're having a good time, there's a feeling inside of me that I cannot explain to y'all, other than it just felt like a bad gut feeling. But I think the hardest thing to decipher when you've experienced trauma in relationships, in any regard, is knowing which is which. Is it my PTSD trying to protect me from something that may happen again? Or is it actually my intuition telling me to run? And that I really struggled with. And I remember leaning on people for advice. And I asked my friends who were there and who were meeting him. And they're like, Liz, we're getting good vibes. Like, this guy is a nice fucking dude, okay? Like, allow it. Like, allow yourself to be treated like this. You deserve it. I will say the elaborate things like made it a little bit harder for me to accept because it just felt like he was doing the most so quickly. And that can obviously be misconstrued as love bombing, which I spoke with him about too. That's the thing. We were very honest. Like, I was, at least. I was like, listen, it kind of looks like love bombing. Have you ever heard of that? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, love bombing is this. And he's like, oh, I could see how it looks like that. It's not, though. He's like, honestly, I've had an ex end it before because of how much I'm like this, and she couldn't handle it. She couldn't believe it was real. So I want you to know that this is who I am. Like, you kind of have to take it or leave it. You have to believe me or not. Like, why would I be lying to you about something? Like, I've been honest with you about everything. I'm like, it almost just feels like you're showing me a little bit of yourself, but you're not showing me all of you. And I was really trying to decipher what it was, because I would have these great moments with him. And then I'm just like, I feel like there's something off, or there's something you're not telling me. So not always, but, you know, a few times I did bring it up. Not every time I felt it, of course, because there was points throughout the day where I'm like, what is going on? But he's just so sweet in every front. Gentleman, yeah, paying for everything, making sure I am okay. Like, I had a lot of anxiety on my birthday. He checked in with me every few minutes. He was so sweet, like so sweet, guys. Like, how are you feeling? Do you want a moment alone? Do you want me to respect your privacy? Would you like me to be with you? Even when we went out to the club that night for my birthday, I stepped away to kind of write a little blog to my younger self, you know, and I was like, cute birthday shit. And he's like, hey, are you okay? You stepped away. And I was like, yeah, I'm just writing a little something, just having a moment. He's like, do you want to be alone, or would you like me to come? And I was like, no, I'm okay. Like, just very sweet. Okay. This guy is very sweet. I need you to emphasis on the very sweet, like amazing, amazing. So it's like the last day. We check out on the Monday, and he was debating flying back to Oz and getting more of his stuff and staying in Bali for longer. Okay. He was like talking about maybe moving there, but he was also very impulsive. And because he could be, he obviously had money and he was working remote. So he had the opportunity to be like, maybe I'll move to Spain. So he was always saying wild shit like that. Maybe I'll move this. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll go to Europe. Maybe I'll do, you know what I mean? Like, he was just all over the place. Maybe I'll move to Canada. Who knows? And, you know, so he was like, I think I want to live in Bali for a little bit. So I'm going to go back to Oz and get more of my stuff. And, you know, I'll come back. So he was wanting to do that on the Monday. To be fair, he was wanting to do that on the Friday, but then he stayed because it was my birthday. So I thought that was sweet. So he was really heavily debating whether or not going back to Oz on Monday. And I said, listen, I don't know how long I'm staying in Bali. My visa's going to expire in like, I think it was 10 days or 2 weeks. So I was either going to do a visa run, which means you leave the country to, like, you just take a flight, you can go anywhere and come right back. You just have to get a fresh new stamp. Or I'm going to go back to Canada. So he's like, let me think about it. And throughout the weekend, he kept kind of jerking me around a little bit. I don't know if it was intentional, but he was like, oh, I'm going to stay. No, I should go back. And I'm just like, bro, why are you doing this to my heart? So it was Sunday night, and he was like, how are you feeling? And I was like, good. I feel good. And he's like, I think I might go back to Oz tomorrow. How do you feel about that? And I was like, I think I would, like, if you want my opinion, I think I would like another night, just you and I, without all these people. We don't have to stay at this villa, of course, but like, we can go somewhere else. And I would just like to get to know you more one-on-one before you head back. And he's like, no, that makes sense. Let me think about it. And in the morning, we'll decide. So in the morning, he wakes up. I'm FaceTiming somebody for my birthday, because it's my birthday now in Canada, right? It's the day after. And I go into the room. It's like 9 a.m., I think. And he's like packing his stuff. And I was like, hey. And he's like, hey. So I decided I am going to go back to Oz. My car is going to come pick me up at like 10, like so soon. I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, is that okay? And I was like, well, yeah. I mean, yeah, you can do whatever you want, of course. But he's like, what's on your mind? And I was like, well, I already told you, like, I think that there needs to be more time, like another day at least, you know, so we can kind of figure out, well, maybe what is going on here before there's some space, significant space. And he's like, I just really feel like I need to go clear my head. He's like, I really need just some time to decompress. This has been so much and so amazing, so fast, that I'm like, I need to catch a breath. And I understood that. Like, everything he said was very logical and it made sense to me. And I was like, okay. He's like, I need to get some work done. I need to pack up my stuff and then I'll come back. And he's like, I can tell you're in your head. And he grabs me. He's like, I want you to know, like, I really, really like you, Alyssa. Like, I'm not going anywhere. And I really, really like you. And I'm going to come back. I promise. I'll be back. Don't get in your head. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to get my stuff and then I'm going to come back. So he was making it easy to trust him in that sense, but I still felt that really off feeling. And I was like, what is that? What does that mean? And so, yeah, he's packing up the car. He's grabs me a few times to just be like, I'm not going anywhere, Liz. I really like you. I'll be back soon. And he's like, this was cool too. He's like, do you want to set up any boundaries while I'm gone? And I was like, well, I don't think it's fair to say like, if you can't hook up with anyone, you can't. Like, I needed more time to get to know you to decide that. But I will say the one boundary I do have is like communication. If there's spotty communication, I just won't do it. Like if you go back to Oz and you drop me or you like don't talk to me for days on end, like, no, I'm not doing it. Like I'm grown and I'm not doing it. Like it's just one thing that is my boundary. So don't cross that. He's like, easy, done. I won't. I'll keep you updated. I'm like, I don't need all day, every day. But like if we go like giant chunks of time, and it was interesting because he said that was his biggest trigger as well. So I was like, oh, you don't have to worry about that with me. I'm like communication queen. So he leaves, flies out, goes back to Oz. He's being very communicative the first day. He's like, I'm flying out. Everything's really hitting me. The fact that I'm leaving, I already miss you. This is sad. I'm like really sad. I'm like, I'm sad too. He's messaging me. Everything is seeming to be okay. And then the next day, he's in Oz. He wakes up. He's like, I'm going to call you in a little bit. Doesn't call me. Doesn't call me until like the end of the day. And so I thought that was a little bit weird. Called me. Didn't want to chat for very long. Just kind of asked how my day was. And then said he had, a lot of work he needed to do. He needed to pack. I'm like, okay, no problem. I totally get it. And yeah, then slowly the communication dwindled. And the next day, I got really sick. I had food poisoning, I think it was. And it was interesting because I'd messaged him to tell him that, and he completely avoided it. Like, he just didn't even address the fact that I was sick, and I thought that was a little bit strange. So I was like, okay, maybe he's just like really in his head, really stressed. And then he said, I just had this really stressful meeting with this client and I might lose the client and I'm really overwhelmed. So we just kind of talked about his issue, which is totally fine. But it was just weird that he didn't address the fact that I was like violently ill and like resting, which is very strange. So I, gave him advice. We were just voice messaging back and forth at this point, no call, and pretty spotty in between. And then I mentioned again that I was sick, and again, he avoided it. And I was like, what the fuck? So he circled back to his issue and his work issue related client bullshit. I don't fucking know. So he's like venting about it. I'm trying to be supportive. And he's like, I'm going to call you in the next 2 hours. I was like, okay, sounds good. So I start getting ready. I start having a feeling like he ain't going to call in the next 2 hours. So I'm like, I'm in Bali, bitch. I'm not going to sit around and wait for no dude to call me. So I literally pack a beach bag and I go to the beach. And I'm having the best time. 7 hours later, he calls me. And I'm just like, what the fuck? I obviously miss it. I have no service at the beach. And I was like, I'll call you when I get back. So I call him when I get back and he doesn't answer. And then I don't hear from him. And then I'm like, hey, I'm only in my hotel for a little bit and then I'm going out tonight. If you want to give me a call before then, let me know. And then very short and dryly, he's like, I'm figuring out a big work thing. I'll call you when I'm done. Period. Like no emojis, nothing, which was very strange for him. He never calls. Like it's funny now. It's not funny then. I go to the club. I'm having a good time, but I'm feeling sick not because of food poisoning, because I feel like this guy's just going ghost. The other thing too, we're saying goodnight and things like that, but he doesn't call me. He doesn't text me. Nothing. Just like nothing. I think it was like 18 or 19 hours. So the next morning I wake up, I call my friends and I'm like, yo, I just got played for real. This guy just went ghost. And they're just like, no way. But they're like, there's not really any other way to interpret it. Like, it's so easy in this day and age to just shoot a message and be like, hey, I got carried away with work. Hope you have a great night. Can't call tonight, but I'll call you first thing tomorrow. Or just not even address the call. Just say goodnight. Nothing. So it's like 11 a.m. the next day. And he texts me. Like, nothing has happened. He's like, good morning, with all these hearts. Like, how did you sleep? I'm just like, that's some weird energy, bro. Like, what? How are you going to say you're going to call me all day and you never call me once? And then you're not even going to say goodnight? Like, weird. And so I was just like, nah, I was pretty much checked out at that point because I'm trying to protect myself. Like, I'm getting these weird vibes. Your communication shit. It's the one thing that it's the only boundary I set in place at this point. And you can't do it. So no, I deserve more. So I don't answer his text. And then a couple hours later, I'm going to the beach with this friend that I made. And he calls me and he's like, hey, how are you? What's up? And I was like, I'm at the beach. That's what's up. He's like, what is this energy I'm getting from you? And I was like, I feel like you know. I feel like you know exactly where this energy is coming from. He's like, you're upset that I didn't call you. And I was like, I'm just upset that you didn't communicate with me at all. Like, not just the call, like you just didn't even shoot a text. Like, I totally get if you were busy with work. Like, I'm an understanding person. I just need communication. And that's the only thing I've asked of you so far. And it's totally fair if you can't give it to me. But it's good that we know now. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't expect you to be able to provide something that you cannot do or want to do. You know, it's just not for me. And I'm not going to settle on that. And I was really proud of myself because I feel like the old me would have been like, fuck it. It's a huge boundary that I need, but fuck it. He has everything else. But I was like, no, it's a really important one for me, communication, especially we don't know each other. You're in a different country. Like, what? So I really was thorough with that. And I was like, I'm not tolerating it. So he was super apologetic and understood, like, I think the severity of the communication thing in that moment, I thought, and was very, you know, I'm so sorry. It won't happen again. I apologize. You know, I just really got carried away with work. And I'm like, maybe he's telling the truth, you know, like maybe I am jumping the gun too quick on this, even though I'm feeling this weird ass feeling. And I will say, you know how I was explaining that weird feeling this entire time? That weird feeling went away when he didn't answer. I felt relief in a way almost, even though I couldn't make sense of it in my brain because I'm like, he's a lot of things you've always wanted. Most, actually, almost everything you've ever wanted. So why are we feeling a bit of relief? So he's like, call me when you get back from the beach, have fun, and we'll have our chat. Oh yeah, the other thing that I forgot to mention, the chat we were supposed to have was literally to discuss where we were at in the relationship, how we were feeling. Yeah, I forgot. It was a big deal. We were literally supposed to have that talk. So that was the talk we were going to have because we both kind of took a bit of time to reflect while we had space. We were like, let's come back together, talk about it, see where we're at. Oh yeah, that's the pressure that was on that call. I forgot. So that's another reason why I was pissed because I was like, sketch. So anyway, he's like, call me when you get back from the beach. I'm like, if you don't answer, I swear to God. He's like, I'm going to answer. I'm like, bitch better. So I get back. I'm like, yo, I'm going to be home soon. You free? If so, call me. So he calls me and we have this chat and I explained to him how I feel in my mind and how I'm unsure and hesitant. And that made me feel uneasy because I'm like, it was the only thing I asked. It's only been like 3 days. What the fuck? And he's like, that's totally fair. Let's just feel it out and see where it goes. I'm like, okay. So I took a little bit of time to reflect, see how I felt. He took some time and then we spoke about it. I got really sick again. I got Bali belly the second time. So I was really ill and I missed my flight to Malaysia to do my visa run. So he, you know, checked in on me. We talked for a long time. And he's like, how have you been? It had only been like under a week, but still it felt like a long time. And we chatted. He's like, guess what? I booked my flight back to Bali this Friday. Let me come see you. Let me come take care of you. I know you're sick. So he was going to stay in a city that was about 30 minutes from mine, where I was currently staying. So he's like, let me come see you and take care of you. It'll be no issue. He was really pushing that. And I was like, okay, no problem. So he flies in. There's no talk of him coming to see me or take care of me. He starts saying like, we should do a little excursion. We should do something together. But then there's no follow-up. This man is saying many words and the actions are not following. And I'm like, what is going on? So he says, I might come up to see you tonight. I might come. No, it wasn't even coming up to see me. He might go out with the boys. So he might come up to see his boys. So I was like, okay, no problem. Let me know. And then last minute, he's like, no, I'm not going to come up, and no reschedule. And I was like, okay, no worries. At this point, like, I feel like I've already grieved the loss of him. So it's not that deep. If you want to play like that, it's okay. You know, I'm already detached in a way. So I was like, no problem. We have one call that night and we're chatting, and I was like, let me get to know this man more. Cause there was something about it that I was like, what is going on with this dude? You know, let me tap into him. Let me psychoanalyze him. So we're fucking talking on the phone and I'm like, so tell me about like a day in your life for work. Like, what does it look like? Cause he did a few different things and some IT, you know, he had some investment properties back in Australia. And I was just curious. He's like, honestly, I usually do about 2 hours of work a day, but it can be spread out. Like I'll do like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here. And I was like, okay, cool. That's chill. That's the dream, you know? And he's like, but to be honest, I need to get my shit in order. And my company told me that because I haven't worked in the last couple of weeks. And I was like, what? What do you mean? I have an excuse you've ever given us been work. What do you mean? Like in that moment, I was just like, damn, man's just told on himself for real. So if you remember, all of his excuses of being late, of being this, were all work related. And he said, I've not worked in the last 2 weeks. And I said, no, but you worked in Australia. And he's like, oh, no, I didn't do any work in Australia. He didn't even realize what he had just done. I said, okay, cool. Anyway, I'm going to go to sleep. Good night. So I call my best friend. I'm like, bitch, guess what? They're like, bro, I said, maybe that's my gut feeling. Like maybe he's got a whole ass girlfriend or a wife. Like that's what I was thinking, you know, maybe he's got something in Oz, which is why he was busy. Like my mind's going a million miles a second. I'm like, if you're not even working, what were you doing all those times you weren't working? Do you know what I mean? You couldn't call me because your big project. Weird, right? So I'm like, no, I'm good. Like I'm good, you know? So mentally I check out. I feel like he knows. He tried to message me once the next day. I didn't answer. And then I think he tried one more time, liked my story or responded to my story. Not like heavy legwork, just light work. And I didn't answer. So he didn't say anything. So it made me sad. But at that point, I felt like I'd already kind of coped with it because I felt like he had gone ghost the week before. So I was like, fuck it. Like, I just feel like the vibes are off. You know, my gut feeling is right. Maybe he's just doesn't even work. I don't know what he does. Like, I don't know what to expect, what to think at this point, other than the fact that I need to protect myself. And obviously, like, I deserve someone whose actions align with their words and who can communicate and who isn't lying about fucking working. That's so weird. So I just like started to move on with my life. And then I think it was like a week or two later, I ended up going to the city that he was also in. It was like a city I was planning on going. It's just everyone's there. And I made friends with some people and I was talking to them about the situation. They're like, that's so weird, dude. I'm like, it's so weird. Like, how are you going to do the most for someone and then just evaporate? And it was just weird. Okay. Just like weird vibes. But I had this overwhelming feeling of I should have a conversation with him instead of just going ghost. Like, let me use this time to really gain a skill of communicating in situations where I just want to go nonverbal. So one thing about me when I solo travel, I really try to challenge myself. This trip, I was really bluntly honest with people. Like, no, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't want to go. See ya. Not giving any second thought to my intuition and what I was feeling. So I was like, this is a really cool opportunity to have a conversation with someone and explain how I feel and explain how they made me feel in the most honest and raw form. So I feel really good about that. Truly, I feel aligned with that. I'm like, that feels like the right thing to do. In no way am I like, I'm going to take this man back. Absolutely not. No. One thing about me, when I'm done, bitch. Done. So I message him and I'm like, hey, I'm in this city. Do you want to meet up for coffee and talk? He messages me immediately back. He goes, Alyssa, oh my God, it's so good to hear from you. Absolutely. I would love that. He's like, I'm literally free now. I was like, well, I'm not free now, but like later today. He's like, okay, cool. You name a time and place, I'll be there. Of course he was late, but he was there. So he shows up. I forget how beautiful this man is, by the way. I'm like, oh, damn. He shows up. He's like, how you doing? He's wearing his glasses, like dark ass glasses in the fucking restaurant. And I'm just like, I'm good. How are you? He's like, I'm okay. I was like, yeah. He's like, I crashed my bike last night. I was like, you crashed your bike last night? How? He's like, well, I went out with the boys. I'm like, wait, did you drink? And he's like, I did. I'm like, damn. So little backstory on his sobriety. He had decided to go sober a few months before this, and he was planning on keeping it. Because when he was in Oz, he called me. He's like, I had a glass of wine. I was like, how do you feel? Because his sobriety wasn't like definitive. Like mine is very like, I'm not going to drink again. I'm just not good on alcohol. Point. His was very, it's up in the air. I don't really have a problem with it, but I like who I am when I'm sober. You know, I like the self-control. I like being, you know, going to the gym, feeling good. having the clarity. So he's like, I had a glass of wine. I felt like shit. I'm never going to drink again. And then here we are 2 weeks later. He got so drunk. He drove the bike, crashed it, and was cut up on his face. So I'm like, what in the fuck is this dude's deal? So I'm just like wild. So I'm just like sitting there psychoanalyzing him, just like really trying to figure out, get my closure, you know? And he's like, so what's up? How you been? He's like, can you tell me something? I was like, I've been a little bit of a mess, I'll be honest. Like this shit with you really hurt me. Like we had a really cool thing and then it was just very strange. He's like, no, I agree. What happened? Did you meet someone? And I was like, no. He's like, you didn't meet someone when you were in Ulu? And I was like, no. I was like, I'm single, but like, I'm not dating anyone. Like, I'm not like, no, like I'm absolutely not. Like, I've not met anyone in years. Fucking mean, no. He's like, you can tell me, I won't be upset. I'm like, I would literally tell you. I'm so honest, but I did not meet anyone. He's like, because I just don't want to feel like, I don't know, like second best, something like along those lines. And I was like, no, I'm not seeing anyone else. But I will say the reason I distanced myself and I didn't speak to you anymore is because of this. And I gave him the work example and he didn't have anything to say. He's like, that's a fair point. I'm like, bro, I know. Like, it's the fairest. He didn't even have any argument, no rebuttal. He was just like, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I did say that. Yeah. I'm like, yeah. So I love me a lot and I'm going to get me someone who's super honest, you know? And anyway, he apologized for a lot of things and for being unclear and communicative. He's very swift. I will say he's very swift. So it was sweet. It was good. It was sad. I literally said, this is so sad. You're a cool dude. I just, you know, this sucks. And he's like, I know, but he's like, I got a new villa. Do you want to come over for a swim? Crazy. But I'm like, damn, I do love a good swim. So I was like, I'll think about it. You know, I'm going to go home. I would need to get my stuff anyway. Let me know the address. Let me see how close it is. Let me think on it. He's like, okay. So we leave. He's like, it's so good to see you, Liz. I missed you so, so much. And I was like, yeah, many have. No, I'm just kidding. So I go home and I'm sitting in my hotel and I'm literally sitting cross-legged on the bed, just thinking. I'm like, what are the pros and cons if I go? Because for some reason I felt a gut feeling to go, you know? And I was like, that's confusing, very confusing all because obviously I don't want anything with this guy. Like that hasn't changed. Of course that hasn't changed. He's still lying and there's still like some weird vibes that I'm picking up on that maybe he's not being honest. So I was like, let me think on this. So I was like, my thought is, let me go and psychoanalyze him a bit more and try and get more answers for my closure, right? So I'm like, he texted me the address. It's 5 minutes away. I said, let me just go. I'm feeling good about it. So I packed my comfies, I packed my swimsuit and I head over. And so he's in a big villa. We're the only ones there. And we're swimming in this pool, we're chilling, and, you know, he says a few things. The details of it, I don't really remember at the, you know, right now, but I just remember the math wasn't nothing. He was saying things and I was like, what? Because he had said something different prior. And I'm like, what is this guy talking about? And he's like, I'm so happy you're back. I'm so happy you're back. I'm like, back? Bro, I'm just swimming. I ain't back. I ain't back nowhere. What do you mean back? You know? I'm just swimming. He's like, well, I'll take it. I'm like, okay. And then so we're swimming around, we're talking. And then at one point he's like, I'm getting quite sleepy. And I was like, okay, well I can head out. And he's like, no, you're not ever leaving me again. No. I was like, oh no. Okay. So we're chilling, but I didn't feel like it was a creepy thing. Like it was just like, oh, okay. You know? So we're swimming. I'm like figuring out what the fuck is going on, trying to analyze this guy. And then I have no idea how this topic surfaced, but something about kids came up and he's like, oh yeah, we've not talked about kids yet. And I was like, yeah, we did. First date, beach, probably 4 p.m. Like one thing about me, I will remember everything a man says. I could go to court and tell you everything he said. I could tell you everything about this, right? Hence why it's been like 6 months. I'm able to tell you the story this clear. I remember shit. So I was like, yeah, we did. It was one of the first conversations we had. And I thought it was impressive because it was like a deep topic. And I'm like, let's talk about kids for sure. Like, why not? Why wait? And he's like, no, we didn't. I'm like, yeah, we did. Why? You got kids? He's like, yeah. I'm like, you're playing. You literally told me you didn't even want kids until you got to Bali and you seen the Balinese children and you were like, maybe I want a kid. He's like, yeah, I didn't necessarily want kids, but I have kids. And I was like, bro. So I just swam away. I thought this man was joking. So I said, I just swam away. So we get out of the water and we're hanging out. We're listening to music on his phone. And then his phone dies. And so we're just chilling, we're having conversation. And he said, as a joke, you want to have a baby by me. And that was kind of his thing. He would like say that once in a while, which was funny because we hadn't had sex and we weren't having sex. So I was just like, it was funny. I'm like, maybe this is just his way of flirting. And I was like, no, I don't want a baby. And I wouldn't want a baby at this point in my life. Like, I'm just not ready. You know, we got into a serious talk about it. And then he was just like, yeah, one of the last people that, I don't know, something about one of the last people he was seeing had an abortion, and it made me really sad, but that would have been like number 7. And I was like, what are you talking about, number 7? He's like, well, I have 6 kids. I said, what? The fuck? He said, I have 6 kids. I said, you're fucking with me. You're fucking with me. Like, I probably went back and forth with this man for 10 straight minutes because I was like, there's no way he has 6 kids, and there's no way you omitted this information until just now. There's no way. I refuse to believe it. Then he goes into the depths of how it happens. Gives me the nitty gritty. He goes, back in the day, I didn't think I could pull any women. I was really insecure, really low self-esteem. I pulled some women. Seems I could. And I have 6 kids. I wish I could see everyone's face right now that's tuning into this episode, because holy fuck, this man has 6 kids. I said, what? With one person? No, many different people. I said, hold on, I need a minute. He goes, I feel like you're overreacting a bit. I said, okay, you're going to tell me you have 6 kids, and then you're going to point to me and say, I'm overreacting. That might be the craziest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. And I've had a crazy life. I'm overreacting. Are other women okay with this? He's like, well, you don't have to raise them, Alyssa. You don't have to take care of them. I don't know why you're freaking out. You don't have to be their mom. I'm like, I'm not freaking out because I'm thinking I have to go into a mother role. I'm freaking out because you omitted the fact that you have 6 fucking children until right now. That's where I'm freaking out. So I'm immediately, my body's starting to be like, oh, okay, this is weird for some people to lie about that. And I feel like if anyone's tuning in who has children knows how weird that would be to be able to just like omit that or not bring up your kids in conversation. Certainly if you had 6, certainly. So I'm like, I'm going to need to see pictures. He's like, I'll go charge my phone right now so I can show you pictures. But I was like, you're not kidding, are you? He's like, I'm not kidding. And like, people have a past and there's no need to judge. I'm like, I'm not judging. I'm just freaked out that you didn't tell me that. Like, that is such a big piece of you. Like that, what do you mean? Like, and he's like, but they're all taken care of. Like, I, pay the child support. Like, their moms are okay. My baby mamas are okay. Like, everyone's taken care of. I'm just like, how the fuck is everyone taken care of if you're here and there's no children? What the fuck? Like, what do you mean they're taken care of? This is insane. So I get a little nervous, a little uneasy, and I grab my phone, a text. He goes, what are you doing? Put your phone down. Like, why are you texting someone? Who are you texting? Are you telling someone about this? Put your phone down. And I'm just like, okay, that's enough out of you, sir. I said, how I'm reacting is like my own reaction. I own that. But like, this is wild news. This is new news. I've known you for over a month. This is crazy to me. This is very shocking. And maybe it is a loud reaction. Who knows? Maybe other women are like, that's chill. No problem. The last guy seen had 11. 6 is light work. Maybe other women are okay with it. I'm not other women. And maybe I just need to take a moment to be alone and not be around you so that this reaction isn't triggering you. So I'm like, let me take a breath. Let me go for a walk. Let me just head out. Let me just have a moment to dissect this on my own. He's like, don't leave. Don't leave. Don't leave. Don't leave. Please don't leave. Please don't, please don't leave. Please. He starts freaking the fuck out. Okay. This man is like 6'4", by the way, massive. And he's just like, I don't want you to leave. He starts breaking down. I'm just like, oh my God, I feel like shit. This man just bared his soul to me. And I'm just like, I gotta go. But it just freaks me out. It freaked me out. Of course, I think that would freak out most people. Apparently not the other women he's seen, but it certainly freaked me out. And the women I would know, freaked out. So I'm like, I grab my shit. I go as fast as I can into the room. I grab my shit. He comes out and he's like, please don't go. Liz, don't go. Don't go. I'm begging you. Don't go. Don't go. Please, I'm allowed to have a pass. I'm allowed to. He's just freaking out. And I was like, I know you are, but like, I need a moment to like collect myself. And if you think my reaction is too loud, maybe it is. Allow me some time, So he's like, oh my God, you're making me so stressed out. I need to have a smoke. I said, I don't even smoke. You're making me have it. Light me a smoke. I'm fucking stressed out. What the fuck you mean I'm stressed out? So it was wild. So he literally lights a smoke. Not for me because I don't actually want to smoke. He fucking lights a smoke. He's pacing. Man's is nervous. And I'm just like, okay. So I grab my shit. I start walking towards the door. He blocks the door. He's like standing there with his arms and legs open, like blocking the exit. I was like, move. I need to go. I need a moment. He looks me dead in the eyes and goes, of course I don't have 6 fucking kids. That's crazy that you'd believe me. I'm like, okay. At this point, I don't give a fuck if you got 6 offspring or none. This is wild. So I was like, move out of the way. I need to go. This is insane. Whether you think it's funny to fuck around with someone who has deep-seated trust issues for an hour, convincing them you have 6 kids or you have 6 kids, either alternative is not looking good. Move out of my way. Like, I'm furious at this point and terrified because I'm like, is this man Bundy? Like, what is the deal? Like, what is the fucking deal? He's lighting his smoke. He sits on my bike, so I can't get on it. And I was like, bro, I need you to move. So at this point, I'm like, there is no one around right now. Like, I need to play this smart. So I said, let me tell you what, I'm gonna be right back, but I need to breathe. I need to breathe. I need to just go for a ride on my bike. In 10 minutes, I'm gonna come back. He's like, you promise? Because you can't leave. You promised we're having dinner tonight. Like, we're going out for dinner. Like, I'm taking you out for dinner. We made these plans. It was wild. This side I hadn't seen of him yet. Of course, guys. But I'm just like, what is going on? I was like, I promise I'll be back. And ladies, anybody who's ever in this fucking situation, you tell them anything that you need to tell them to get the fuck out of their fucking presence. Anything. I don't give a fuck what you make up. You can make up, but you had 6 kids. I don't give a shit. Get out of there. Protect yourself. Do whatever you need to do. So I did that. I said, I'll be right back. I promise. He goes, you promise? You swear to God you'll be right back? I was like, I swear to God I'll be right back. Please move. Please get off my bike. I start my bike. I drive off and I like go into full shock. So I did text somebody at the time of sitting on the couch when he accused me of texting someone. I didn't say what was going on because, like, how the fuck am I supposed to send that? Like, an essay? This has been an hour podcast so far. Like, what? I was like, I'm not okay. Meet me here. So my friend, he met up with me and I get off the bike. He knew I was going to talk to this guy. He was like on board with it. He's like, I think you need closure. I think you need answers. This guy didn't give you any answers. Very confusing vibes. Like, go talk to him. So he's like, what happened? And I told him everything. And he was like, holy fucking shit. I was like, what? Why would he say he has 6 kids? Then he goes, oh, he has 6 kids. He has 6 kids. He waited till the exact last moment for you to leave. Like, you had your shit packed. You were exiting the door. And he said, just kidding. He has 6 kids, Liz, 100%. Even if he doesn't, the man is fucked. Like, that is a crazy joke to make. For an hour, he spent his time convincing you that he had 6. That's just weird, bro. To joke if you have a kid or to bring kids in the mix at all is just a very weird butt of a joke. But to go into all these elaborate, he had 6 kids. It's safe to assume he had 6 children. And you dodged a fucking bullet. So I obviously don't go back. Of course, I feel like you guys probably knew that, but I'm just like, of course I don't go back. So my friend who I was talking to, he ended up having to go. He had plans. So I went over to my girlfriend's house that I met like the day before. That's Bali, hey? But she said, pull up, girl, what's up? So I had already told her a bit about this situation and she knew I was over there too. So she orders me food. She gets me water. She says, come over. I'm going to take care of you. I am in the doorway of her house. I don't even sit down. I can't. I'm pacing. I'm just like, I cannot believe this just happened to me. It's crazy to me because everything makes sense now. Everything makes sense. He was probably with the 6 kids in Australia. That's why he couldn't call me. He has 6 kids on his lap or something. So I said, everything is making sense now, but I'm shook because my initial thought was he's got a wife, he's got a girlfriend, he's got something. That's what I always assumed. I never dreamt that he may have fucking 6 children in his possession or like that he was visiting or what. Maybe that's why he had to go. You know what I mean? Like, everything is making sense. My friend is just like jaw on the floor. She's like, I cannot believe this is a real thing. Like, this is insane to me. I'm like, Netflix must pick this up. Like, Netflix, if you're listening, yes, we need to do a series on this because this is insane. This is wild. So then he starts blowing up my phone. He sent me a video that he took of me at lunch. And he was just like, Alyssa left me. He was talking in third person, which was really strange. And before I left, I even asked him, like, with all due respect, like, are you on drugs right now? Because that's the only other explanation I could think of. Maybe he's just like a high out of his mind and he's just saying wild shit. He was like, no, of course I'm not high. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I don't think we should trust him in any way. I would definitely need to see a fucking drug test take place for me to believe anything that came out of his mouth. But he starts messaging me. He sends voice notes. He's like, I'm so sorry. Please come back. Please don't leave it like this. Please don't leave me. Please don't leave it. Like, sad, bro. Because there's a part of me that's obviously deeply empathetic. And he bared a lot of his soul with me. I know what he had been through. I understand, when people are traumatized or when they go through things, they act in a way that most people don't understand. And they do weird shit and they do strange shit. And so the empathetic side of me was really sad because I was like, man, like, this is sad. Like, if this is true, which I believe it is, he just bared his soul and then I just left, never to return. But it's obviously, I feel like most people understand that it was the right thing to do to leave. So I didn't act on anything that night. I didn't respond to him, and he just kept calling and messaging and sending me voice notes. And I was like, I can't even function, because I was going through the different stages of whatever the fuck that was, grief. I felt like I was in fight or flight. I had not felt that unsafe in an environment in a long time. In a long time, it had been that I had been triggered by a man like that, keeping me and being like, don't leave, don't, like, it scared the shit out of me. And then I would just like laugh because I'm coping, and then I would just cry because I'm sad, and then I would just get scared because it was scary, and it was all these emotions. So eventually I bike home. I'm not far from him. And so I tell the people that own the homestay that I'm at, I'm like, hey, here's a picture of this guy. If he comes, please don't let him see me. Please don't, let him in. He's not a good person. Do you have cameras? Do the cameras work? Etc. And they're like, okay, no problem. They understood. I go to sleep. The next day I wake up and I write him a message, and I'm just like, listen, what happened last night was so inappropriate, deeply, on so many levels, whether it's true or not. It was just so wrong. You violated my trust. You tried to keep me there longer than I wanted. It was just not okay. And based off the actions that I've seen of you and the things that you've, confided in me with, I do think that therapy would be a really good next move for you. But I want no part in any type of relationship with you moving forward. I wish you the best in life. Like, it was a very kind response. And then I blocked him on everything, of course. Of course. I was very proud of myself for that, because I really want to be like, you motherfucking crazy bitch. But I didn't, though I think it would have been okay if I did. I still didn't want to. And I just think people who have been through immense amount of trauma, it comes out in very strange ways. And yeah, after that, so you would think that was the scariest part, but it was actually what came after of the feeling in fight or flight. Like, it pulled up so many PTSD moments for me. Like, I was deeply triggered for weeks. Deeply. I kept tripping out, thinking I was seeing him. I was afraid he was going to show up, break into my hotel. I just was so scared of what he would do because of how unhinged that behavior was that I hadn't seen. So I was like, if he's unwell, this deeply unwell, then what is he capable of? So I packed my stuff and I went to a different city, and I just kind of went off the grid for a bit. I just immersed myself in the jungle, and I just cried and I healed, and I just dealt with it. And it was a really beautiful way to do that. It was really heartbreaking, obviously, in a lot of ways, because it was the first time that I had considered, like, maybe this is the person for me, And then it just turned out to be like the most opposite of all time ever to ever exist. So I was pretty heartbroken and just sad for him too. Like, just sad for everyone, the 6 kids and everyone. I was just like, damn, this is just a really fucked up situation. And yeah, I don't know if anyone listening has PTSD, but when the PTSD triggers hit, they're really intense. Like, you can feel like you're reliving the same trauma, even though you're not, even though you're safe now, even though it's a very different situation from what I experienced in past, it still felt like I was reliving it. So it was terrifying and it was really sad, but I just allowed myself the space to feel all of my feelings and not have shame. I think more often than not, we have lived in a very male predominant world where the fault usually falls on women. And I felt that internal dialogue, from the patriarchy coming out of being like, you should have known, or you should have seen the signs. But I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, think about Ted Bundy. Think about all these people who were so slick. He was married. He had a whole ass wife, a daughter. You know what I mean? Like, people can be manipulated. And for me, though I felt this very, very big gut feeling, I didn't know whether it was my PTSD or it was, my PTSD and my brain keeping me safe of potential trauma, or if it was actually a gut feeling. Now I fucking know. So for me, I looked at this situation and I'm like, though it was a hard thing to go through, I'm so grateful because it taught me I can fucking trust myself. It taught me that despite what everyone else thinks, they're a good person, he's a good person, you should trust him. You cannot trust anybody else but yourself. Your body knows before you do. And don't even try to analyze why it's happening. Just remove yourself and analyze it later, because my analysis in it was maybe he has a girlfriend. I never dreamt of what it could actually be, right? You just assume that's the most general one, or they have, a secret something, whatever it is. So don't try to get too analytical over what it is you're feeling your gut, you're feeling your gut feeling for. Just recognize that you're feeling it and remove yourself and analyze it later. You may never even know, but your body knows, and trust it. And I really wanted to share this story, not to startle you from dating, but just because I don't feel startled from dating. I don't feel like, oh, I'm never going to date again because that happened to me. If anything, I just feel like I have way more wisdom now and trust in myself. And I feel like that was the lesson. My friend's husband was like, it's crazy that you don't date. You haven't dated in years, and this was your first experience. And I'm like, I don't really look at it in the victim mindset though. Like, I just look at it as, how cool is it that I can trust myself now? It's a win to me. And I do believe your perspective is everything. That's something I preach nonstop. But yeah, it was wild to say the least. But I feel really blessed to now know and decipher between the two. So I wanted to drop this episode because I think it's just a wild story in general. And I think there can be a lot of value taken from this. And it's just a great reminder to trust your instincts. Nobody knows what you're feeling but you. No one. So go with your gut. If you are in a situation right now, especially when you're dating someone and there is something that feels off, literally finish this episode and then end it. That is my ask of you, because it is off for a reason. And sometimes we, assume it's, maybe it's our past trauma, or it's our trust issues, or it can be this and this. But that unsettling feeling in the middle of your gut, your body can tell before you. Get out. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. This was wild to record. This took a little bit of courage for sure. I think too, just like, it's intense sharing such a vulnerable piece. Like, I know it's what I do for a living, but there are some things that I'm just like, damn, this is extra hard to share. Because I think there is that fear of judgment from people of like, oh, you should have known it, you should have done this. But like, at the end of the day, we've all been in situations where we thought, we were doing the best and we were blindsided. People can be really good. They can be really deceiving. He was really good. And he was a lot of things that I wanted in a partner, like literally everything except for the secret life thing, of course. But yeah, it taught me a lot. And I'm totally fine now. Like, this was months ago, of course, but I wanted to wait until I was fine to tell it because I was in such a heightened state of anxiety. I don't think it would have been good for me to be like, story time while I was going through it, because it was not a good time. But I'm certainly okay now. I'm feeling really at peace, in my decision to be kind up until the very end and then block to protect. And yeah, there's been moments, there's been waves where I felt emotion that come over. I'm like, damn, that was really sad and scary and weird. And then, for the most part, I'm just okay. So I am sending love to anyone who has ever gone through wild situations like that, where there's like big trust and betrayal issues, things broken. My heart goes out to you, because it can really fuck you up, especially if it triggers your PTSD. But the best thing you can ever do is just listen to your intuition. It's there for a reason, right? Listen to you. That is your lesson today. Thank you so much for tuning into this and listening along. Feel free to message me if you have any crazy stories, or feel free to put your input. Let me know if you guessed that ending. Anything, please feel free. But it's been good to share it with you guys. I think it's very valuable. And I'm sending you guys lots of love wherever you're at in the world, whatever's going on in your life. And until next time. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I loved having you. If you wish to support this podcast, please follow us so you never miss an episode. You can also find us on social media at Full Minded Podcast. Please visit our website at www.fullmindedpodcast.com to submit all your questions.
If you wish to be a guest on this podcast, please fill out the form on our website to apply. Your continued support means the world, so thank you again for taking the time out of your day to tune into Full Minded with Alyssa Bette. Until next time, be kind to yourselves and remember that there is power in owning our imperfect and messy lives. It's all a part of the human experience, and you're not alone in it.